I'm Karen Halloran, and today on the show we have attorney Stephen Spano and attorney Andrea Witt. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So I guess we could start with your background. Do you want to tell us, Andrea?
Sure. So I grew up locally in Winchester, went to Boston College and Suffolk Law School.
Excellent. Stephen, what about yourself?
I grew up in a very Tony suburb called East Boston, and went to UMass, have a bachelor's in English and psychology, an MBA, a master's degree in business, and my law degree from New England Law.
Excellent. So why did both of you decide to get into estate planning?
So estate planning and elder law is what we focus on. For me, it certainly is an opportunity to help people. I go home every day and can say to my children how proud I am of the work that I do. You know, we really do make a difference in people's lives.
And for me, my mom had Alzheimer's at a very early age. She had early onset Alzheimer's, and we found legal solutions to be lacking and financial solutions to be lacking. And so this is the practice that we developed specifically because of my mom.
Interesting. That's really good. The courts are underfunded, understaffed, the people are overworked, there's backloads. Are these problems for you?
Yes. We have to come up with creative solutions on a daily basis to help our clients who really are working with us through the delays and backlogs. So absolutely.
And you know what, it's unfortunate because the court and our legislature has given people options so they could avoid going to court. But so few people take advanced planning seriously that unfortunately they end up in the one place they don't want to be, which is court.
Exactly. And how do you avoid expensive, complicated, and lengthy court proceedings? Because they're very lengthy, I understand.
Yes. So I think like so many other things in life, prior planning is really what you need. Lots of information and prior planning, putting a good plan in place to avoid conflicts and problems that you don't want.
You know, really, just some basic estate planning documents properly drafted can keep people out of court. But unfortunately, most people don't do that.
Yeah, a lot of people wait till it's too late, I think, correct?
Yes, you know, they assume that, and that's a crazy word, as I've been told many times, but they assume they'll be able to do whatever they need to do without any court intervention. But with no planning, they can't do that, and the court is the only option.
I think sometimes they also get frozen in crisis and stress and don't know where to turn.
Exactly. So you're the right people to turn to. But are there any specific court procedures and how to avoid them?
So I think the procedures that unfortunately we see a lot of families have to go through are guardianship and conservatorship. Now, if you reach a place where a loved one is incapacitated, they can't make decisions for themselves, and they haven't put together a plan to avoid the process, then we need to go to court to have someone appointed so that they can assist in making those decisions.
And Andrea makes a really good point, and that is you could go and get a free form called the healthcare proxy. Now, it's not as good as ours. It doesn't have all the living will content in it, but at the same time, it serves to name a person to make healthcare decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. In that case, what happens is you can actually avoid a guardianship with a healthcare proxy. In addition, with a healthcare proxy, if you need antipsychotic medication, you can actually get that medication without a secondary court procedure, whereas if the person had to go for a guardianship, you now have to go for a special hearing called a Rogers hearing for authority to administer antipsychotic medication. So you can actually do something without a lawyer for free and avoid that guardianship.
Great. Yeah, guardianship sounds like it involves a lot and you want to avoid it if you can. Yeah. What about medical decisions, guardianship and healthcare proxy? I think you touched upon that. Is there anything else you want to add to that? Or?
So I think what we believe is very important is that your healthcare proxy really details what your wishes are. Because a healthcare proxy is an opportunity for you to detail the kind of life you want to live, the kind of decisions you want to make, even when you can't communicate those decisions yourself. So make sure you work with the expert attorney who can help you draft those wishes in a way that your family understands them and knows how to act if they have to act on your behalf.
You know, I'd like to follow up on that a little, because what we don't talk about as lawyers or as human beings so much is love. And these are people that love us and we love them. So why don't we help them make decisions for us without guilt and a sense of doom and gloom? And by putting more of our wishes into that document, it can create family harmony, maintain family harmony after the person's gone, and show love for the person by giving them some guidance. Don't just name someone to make decisions for you and not give them any guidance.
It helps you to maintain independence. I think Stephen kind of infamously has told everybody he's been a vegetarian his entire life, and he has right in his healthcare proxy, please don't ever feed me meat. So if someone has to make a decision about menu choices, he's letting them know, this is my choice. And that's really what the healthcare proxy is about.
So speaking of healthcare proxies, are those free? Like the forms, would they get them from a doctor or something like that online?
So you can get the free form at your doctor's office, or if you have a procedure, the hospital is probably going to ask if you have one, and they have the forms available there. It is a standard form, so you really can't do anything more than name someone to make decisions on your behalf and name an alternate. You can't customize it with your special wishes, which is why going to an attorney to have the document drafted is a good choice. But that free form does avoid the guardianship.
Okay. Maybe we could just start out with something simple. What is probate? And does a will help you avoid going to probate court?
Well, the answer to the second part of that question is a will does not avoid probate. Think of a will as instructions for the probate court. In Massachusetts, we don't have so much as a probate court. We have a probate and family court. So all of the guardianships, the conservatorships, the probative estates, the will contests, things of that nature are heard in the exact same court as all the marital problems that people are having in all the child custody. And in many cases, those have precedent, those take precedent over these cases regarding money, because we have people's lives at stake, which drags everything out. And the probate court is the court that oversees what is called the probate of a will, and that is the court overseeing the process of getting things that are in the name of the deceased person into the names of the people named in the will.
Now, does a spouse need a will in order to automatically inherit the house?
Oh, that's a complicated question. like most things, right? Lawyers are always going to tell you it depends. But really, in terms of inheriting the house, what's important is what's on the title of the deed. So who owns the house? If two spouses own a home jointly, then it's going to go to the joint owner when one of them passes away. If that's not how the spouses own the property, then it's going to depend on the will of the person who died.
And by the way, if there is no will, the spouse doesn't automatically inherit everything. If there are children, children inherit part as well. So it really is important for spouses to have a will.
Yeah, it's very complicated. What if someone has to go to a nursing home then? Do they need to spend down in order to qualify for Mass Health?
You know, it all depends on who they go to. You know, there are all these little organizations that say, we do Mass Health applications, etc. And if your goal is to protect an asset, you shouldn't be using those organizations. If you have nothing to protect, then those organizations are absolutely fine. Because in our office, we're proud to say not a single client has ever had to spend down to qualify for Mass Health, which is what we call the Medicaid program.
Wow. So do they need to transfer all assets, like the house, the retirement, if the other spouse isn't competent?
You know, they may not need to, but they should. For example, if the healthy spouse, so as I always tell people, men like to think they're the stronger sex, but in reality we are the weaker sex. So let's say the man's in the nursing home, we'll use a typical heterosexual marriage for purposes of our illustration. Man goes into the nursing home, wife is at home, and the house is in both names. If the wife does not take the husband's name off the house and she dies first, now the husband who lives in the nursing home owns the house and the house will be lost. So you should take it out.
You definitely. What is a durable power of attorney? Would they get that form off the internet or something like that?
So unlike the healthcare proxy, which we're comfortable with using that free Massachusetts standard form that you get from the hospital, the same cannot be said for the power of attorney. In fact, we spend a lot of time fixing problems and consequences that come from standard powers of attorney that people printed off the internet and used as a solution. So getting back to your initial question though, what is a power of attorney? It's kind of the flip side of the healthcare proxy. In the healthcare proxy, you're naming someone to make medical decisions for you if you can't make those decisions yourself. And in a power of attorney, you're naming an agent to manage your finances and answer questions about your assets.
And Andrea is being kind because about 85% of the powers of attorney that we see drafted by other attorneys are actually defective for the purposes that we need to use them for. For example, there was a court case just a year ago that came out that talked about the powers that need to be in a power of attorney in order to fund certain trusts. And these are specialized trusts that we use to protect assets for families. And at least 85% of the powers of attorney we see do not have that. In addition, about 85% of the powers of attorney that we see, and these are powers, by the way, drafted by other attorneys, do not have the power to transfer the house from one spouse to the other, which can cause the loss of the home.
So then I think that brings us to estate tax. What exactly is estate tax, and are they forced to sell the home in order to pay the estate tax?
Well, there's two kinds of estate tax. We have an estate tax here in Massachusetts if your estate is over $1 million, and there's a federal estate tax as well. The number changes every year. I believe now we're at
12.4, 12.6.
Something like that.
So we don't have a problem for the federal for most of our clients.
What if a child lives in the home?
You know, that's an interesting question because we have a lot of families that come to us that the child has kept the parents out of the home for many years. Kept them out of the nursing home for many years. And so, and they may only have one child and they want to transfer the home to the child and the child lives in the home. Well, the problem in Massachusetts is our estate tax threshold is $1 million. And that estate tax is due within 9 months of the death of the person. And the problem is with our economy, the way it is and the price of houses, this may be a family that purchased this house for $9,000 to $11,000, and yet now it's worth $1.1 million. Well, the problem with that is that there is an estate tax due, and the child living in the home may not have the funds to pay the estate tax, and so they have to sell the home that is their primary residence. And families should be aware of that, and they can develop a plan to protect that, to take advantage of up to $2 million to protect. Now, there have been flouted before our legislature previously under the prior governor and hopefully under the new governor, and an exception to raise it to $2 million, but that has not been approved yet.
I think what's important, again, here is the planning. That with planning, there are so many disasters that can be avoided, especially when it comes to that home.
So I think we've learned here, definitely pre-plan. Well, I'd like to, thank you for coming on the show. You're a wealth of knowledge, and I think everybody out there has learned a lot. If someone would like to get in touch with you, how would they do so?
So they can reach us at spanodewicki.com is our website. Always give us a call at 781-231-7800.
And by the way, that telephone number is also text enabled, and if someone wanted to send us an email, they could simply send it to help@spanodewicki.com.
Fantastic. We like to end the show with 3 questions. The first question is, tell us a fun fact about you. Can be anything.
Bruce Springsteen's my favorite musician. I just saw him at the Garden a couple weeks ago. Best concert ever.
Excellent. Steven?
I bought an adult pogo stick that I'm trying to learn how to use, and Andrea's son saw it on television, said this would be amazing, and her response was, hell no, I think it was.
It was on Shark Tank.
It can go up to 10 feet high.
That is funny. Another question. We love pets on this show. Do you have any pets?
I have 2 pets. We have 2 cats, an orange cat, Fiki, and a Maine Coon, Xander. But my son is currently lobbying to get a mini Siberian Husky.
Ooh. Steven.
And we had 3 cats. All 3 have passed away. And now we basically steal the neighbor's cats on a regular basis. And it was a stray that they adopted. And they simply call it Kitty. And then that's their name for it. And she is actually able to put him in the bathtub, our neighbor, and wash him, which is surprising. I've never heard of this before with a cat. Yeah. But Kitty comes over and visits us every morning for about an hour and every evening for about an hour.
That's great. And you don't have to take up the cost of having a cat.
No, not at all.
Okay, the final question is, it has not been that bad of a winter, but everybody likes to travel. Do you have any travel plans? Summer's coming, or anything you've done recently?
I do, actually. I'm taking a vacation for the first time in years. I'm going to Montana for a week. We're going to visit Glacier National Park.
That's excellent.
We were in Rome when COVID hit, my wife and I, and as it was coming down Italy, we panicked and left 10 days early to get back home, which was a good thing we did, or we would have been stranded in Italy, which I wouldn't have thought was so bad. But my wife has said, no more vacations for a while, so I have no idea what we're doing this year.
I'm sure she'll make you plan something down the road. Once again, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. We will post at the end ways to get in touch with you. We'll put your phone number, your address, and all of that. So I'd just like to thank you for coming on the show today. Until next time, have a great day.